We still have a hand. This is wonderful. Can't you think? I don't know how many there were, but a lot of you probably remember either right here. Yeah, there weren't too many of us, but look at us now. We're growing, and it's wonderful. There's a lot more. I think there's 250 of us on the list. So, you're in the top 10% right here, top 20%, which is where you always want to be in real estate, right? It's that. Because those are the people who succeed. 80% of them don't. So sorry, guys, that aren't here, but you're here, so welcome and thank you for coming. So thank you so much, April, Ilana, Tracy, and Han.
And if I may, Paula used to be our burper. She was our burper, our ice guard, and she's amazing. If you don't know Paula, get to know Paula.
Oh, well, thank you. It's true. I was managing broker here in this office for 8 years with James and Frank. And then we together opened all the offices in the North Bay and not East Bay. I didn't do the East Bay. That's David Troll's area. But in Marin, we opened with Chelsea Elagio. Many of you know her. So anyway, we've had a great, great time. And now I have gone back to sales, my first true love. I've been selling real estate, 40 years almost. It's amazing because I'm so young. Anyway, so what I wanted to do today is talk to you about business planning. I was asked to teach this class. People love this class. I love this class. I love really business planning in general, right? So I have some handouts for you. I have some slides. The handouts I'll give to you as we go along, or maybe even at the end, because I find that people start reading and rustling papers, and it's just, so I prefer to just, so when you go to, we used to do this. We used to present offers in person, right? So it's all real estate. Who's old enough to remember that? Oh, okay, yay. There's a bunch of us, right? We used to literally go to the seller. Can I present this offer in person to your seller, right? And the one tip that my broker taught me was, don't give them the offer, the paperwork, until you've said everything you want to say, right? So I'd go in there and I'd say, so Andrea, my client loves your property and we're going to, let me give you the highlights of the offer. The purchase price, this, right? All the 4 points that they want to know. Contingencies, close of escrow, just the meat. And then, they were okay. Because if I gave that seller that 15-page contract, first of all, they glaze over. They have no idea what they're looking at. They're not listening to me anymore. They don't know what they're doing. So that's a little tip that I learned in teaching classes. I'll give you the material towards the end, okay? So, but we have plenty of it. You can see it's all going to be up here. So let's go to the first slide and I'll tell you some stories. I like to tell stories because I think life is made up of stories, right? Would you all agree? Yeah. So it's good to tell stories. When you're in escrow with clients and things are going bad, tell them a good story. Break the ice, right? So for people who are brand new, how many people are in their first year of real estate? Let me see your hands, please. Okay, good. Excellent. So we got some seasoned days. Welcome. You're in the top 20%, so you want to stay here. That's the key for the first people. How many people 1 to 5 years? Okay, good. And then 5 to 10, or 10 more. Yeah, 10 more. I know there's a bunch of you. Okay, good. Great, well-rounded group. So the reason I ask is because I want you to look at, okay, 1 year, maybe today you just want to take 1 year at a time. Do your 1 year plan for 2026. So this was last year's slide. Didn't change it yet. So for 2026, you want to look at that year. Maybe you want to look at 5 years ahead because you're already got a couple of years under your belt. You're in your first 5 years. You want to look at what's the next year, absolutely, but then 5 years beyond that, and then 10 years beyond that for people who, I'm looking at what is my next 10 years going to look like? I managed for 17 years. What am I going to be doing? I won't tell you how old I'll be, but what am I going to be doing? Hopefully, having a great time. I always have a great time. So, okay, let's see the next slide. Okay, so the cards. So I want to talk to you about the cards that I gave out to you in the very beginning. Everybody, if you don't have one, it's okay, but I just wanted to pass them out because this is a story. I back up. Business planning, a lot of what we do is we create thank you. Yeah, go ahead and move it. We create our own wealth, right? We create our own destiny. How many people believe that?
Yes.
Oh, good. Great group. Okay. So you're going to love this then. So I don't even know what year this movie was made, but and this scientist, Masaru Emoto, is a Japanese businessman who actually created he studied the molecular structure of water, okay? And so when I say water, you probably know where I'm from, right? Okay. My friends always give me a hard time. Water. Okay. So anyway, there was a movie that Marley Matlin starred in, and it was called What the Bleep. If you've not, anybody ever seen it, you've seen it. Okay. Oh yeah, great movie. So what the movie was about was, it was very esoteric and very intense and hard to follow, but the crux of it was based on this story, okay, the molecular cells of water. And this scientist, what he did was, he took one drop of water from Mount Fuji, the most pristine lake that is there, and he studied it underneath, and he studied it underwater. I mean, under a microscope, right? So I don't know if that slide is here, but I'll just pick one that probably would relate. And it looks sort of like this. So you all have beautiful cards in your hands, right? And so then he took some water from the gutter in the street, and he looked at one drop, one molecule under the microscope. And what did he see? It was all distorted and brown and ugly. It would look nothing like this beautiful crystal, right? So he said, well, this is interesting. So he started his study there. And the short story is that he took, I'll just get to the chase, he took 6 bottles of water, okay? You know, just the ones you buy, the spring water bottles, perfectly beautiful water. And he put labels on them. And he put words like, I don't know, love, beauty, romance, right? And then he locked them in a vault, but he also took 3 more bottles and he put words like hate, murder, rape, right? Put them on the water, tape, scotch tape, whatever, I don't know exactly what format. But anyway, so he put them on there and he put them in the vault for 6 months. And he took them out of the vault after 6 months, and he studied them. And what he discovered, this is all a true story, you can check. What he discovered was that the bottles that had those beautiful words like love and romance and beauty, the crystals looked like the ones in your hands, right? And the ones that said murder and rape were all distorted and nasty, okay? So why do I tell the story? I tell the story because 60 to 70% of our bodies are made up of, I don't know exactly, water. And so when I started to think about that, I thought, geez, you know, I walk around, I'll use myself as an example because I know none of you do this. Oh my God, you know, my body, I'm so fat, or I'm so old, or I'm so ugly, or I'm so tired, or I'm no good, or I can't do that, right? Do we do that? I do it. I've done it for years. And I realized that if I'm constantly telling my water how bad it is, guess what? My molecules are a mess. So I started to say things like, I'm great, I can do that, I can achieve that, I can climb to the top of Half Dome at 50 years old. No problem, right? And so it's an important piece of information that I like to share, because when you're doing your business planning, yes, business is business. We all want to succeed, and we do. We do great. A lot of us are really doing wonderful in this business. And the thing is that we want to be able to visualize positive things. And so I want to share that story with you, because I think as you go home, and that's what the movie, What the Bleep is. She's standing in the mirror all the time saying how awful she is, how much she hates her body, all these things. And then she goes down this rabbit hole and discovers that the molecular, it's a very hard word, the molecular, cells in her body were changing as she was getting, more down on herself. So I like to leave that story on the table. It's one of my favorite stories. I always like to start my business plan with that, because when you start to look at your future, you want to be in that zone of how positive you are, that you can climb Mount Everest, that you can make you can make $500,000, you can make $1 million in this business if you want to. But you have to believe it. And even if you don't believe it, you have to say it. Because if you say it, then you start to believe it, and then it becomes reality. That's right. And I know that why, because when I started in this business when I was 30 years old, I didn't have $10, right? But I knew that I wanted to make it, and then I made a plan on how I was going to get there. I always look at business planning as a roadmap, okay? It's like driving from here to New York. Can you do that without a map? Yes. Will it take you forever? Probably. But if you have a map, guess what? It's just so much easier. Oh, that's the route I need to take. And that's what your business plan should look like, right? So you can change the slide for me, Anthony. Thank you. And so in you going, you're ready to kind of talk about that. So I always like to say that, a good business plan does involve travel, shopping, wine, and food, right? Because let's face it, this is what life is about. Why make it difficult on yourself? So what does that mean? That means that I like to go shopping. That'd be somewhere here, but I like to buy a brand new book for the new year. Do you all like to do that? A new calendar, a new book, right? Bless you. Then I like to also travel. So I like to get out of my house. You need to get out of your own environment in order to have some time and space. If you sit home, the laundry has to be done, the garden needs tending, the kids are calling, everything has to be done. But if you go to a nice hotel, maybe out at the coast somewhere, get a nice room, little fireplace, nice bottle of wine, little cheese, right? Spend a couple of nights there. A good, thoughtful business plan takes me at least a couple of days. Because first of all, I need to come down from where I am, which is like running the mill, right? So then I like to settle into myself, and I like to have some breathing room. And then I get my brand new book, because it's all questions, a nice pen, and I start to make goals, right? Now I'm going to get into how we do that. There's two handouts I'm going to give you today. One is a single one piece of paper business plan. That's for I don't know if it's the right or the left brain person, but I've got you covered, right? So the person who likes the simple bullet points, that's the one page. Then I've got it's like 25-page business plan that also is great. I love both of them, and I use both of them interchangeably. But for many years, I used the one page. Because when I was new, I certainly couldn't comprehend more than, one page of anything. It was like learning everything in the business, right? And then as I got further along, I wanted to add more information. So with the start of the one page, what you really need to know is you need to set your goals, you need to set some strategies, and then you need to put them in your calendar, okay? The most important part, the number one place where I've read many, many business plans for my agents over years of management, and the number one thing that people don't do is put it in the calendar. So when they go and somebody calls them and says, hey, let's have lunch, and they look at their calendar, sure, I had nothing to do, right? Because there wasn't an appointment with a buyer or a seller. But there's a million things that you should be doing during a business day in real estate, right? So we start with the calendar. And what I like to do is a fun little exercise. I'm going to give you each. You've probably all seen these before, yeah? And what I like to do with this exercise is you take this, and we're not going to do it because we don't have the time, but you're going to get a calendar, and I want you to do this at home. I want you to be honest with yourself. And I want you to cross off every day that you don't work, okay? So your birthday, your kid's birthday, your husband and wife's birthday, right? Holidays, who knows, Super Bowl. I mean, there's a million reasons not to work, let's face it. I have to go shopping. Vacation, right? Vacation is important. You want to put it in the calendar, because what I find is agents, I have been at it a few years, managing for 20 years. I've heard a lot of stories, right? I work all the time. You do you? Oh, I'm in the office like 10 hours a day, but I never see you. What are you doing? Well, I made 3 phone calls. Yeah, okay, well, that's not really working, right? So what agents do is they kid themselves into thinking they're working when they're not. So the key is, I want you to take 4 to 6 weeks off a year, no problem. When I was a top producer, that's what I did. I just took as much time as I wanted, but when I worked, I worked. I was present and I did my job. So if you start clearing, you think you're working 52 weeks, you're not. You're probably working maybe 40 when you look at it, right? Because you take off all these special days, and when you cumulatively, that's what you're doing. So what you want to do is be honest with yourself. And the thing about being honest with yourself is then when I'm working, I need to actually work, because guess what? I have all this free time when I'm not working. So I want you to that's the first exercise that you do. Very first thing is you take the calendar and you start crossing off every day you don't want to work. And that's fine. Take as much time as you want. It will really work out well for you, okay? So that's where we are with calendars, right? So then, okay, so before I go into the math, I want to talk to you about the goal setting, right? So a couple of things to note. I used to make 25 goals every year, like because I'm a overachiever. Who's an overachiever in the room? Let me see your hands. Okay, good. Being honest, it's good. And so you're going to probably set 20 goals. And then other people, maybe you'll set 10 goals, right? You like balance, and then those really, balanced people will do like 5. Okay. So, but what you want to do is not just business. Even though we call it business planning, your life is not just business, right? You want to include your personal life. You want to include your relationships. You want to include your spiritual life if you have it. You want to include your, all the things that make up your life, your children, your pets, whatever it is, right? Because there are goals. Maybe you want to buy real estate, right? So if you watch my podcast, you'll see Aaron and Micah Bellings recently. When I hired them, they said, we want to buy a new property every 1 to 3 years. And it's been 13 years, and they have been doing that. It's on their plan every year to buy real estate and hold on to it, because if you really want to build wealth, that's the secret, right? So the commissions are great. They keep us going, but that's not how you build wealth. Buying real estate and holding on to it, that's an aside, okay? So when you do your goals, and I'm going to talk just about the business goal today. I'm not going to talk about your personal lives. You know what they are. But each goal that you set, this is, by the way, I got this, there's nobody here. I got this from my broker 35 years ago. I said, do you know about business plans? And she said, oh yeah. She turned around, her dad's pulled out this piece of paper, and she handed it to me and dismissed me. And I was like, okay, what do I do with that? Just like all real estate, nobody helps you, right? Nobody tells you anything. So I got this piece of paper, and I was looking at it, and you could see how old it is, And so I've typed it over many times, and it had these goals, and then it had the strategies, and then the tactics or your calendar, right? And I was like, and I'm going to hand this out to you. But so I was like, okay, take one goal, and each goal that you set, then you have to figure what's the strategy to achieve $100,000. And that's how we get to our math equation. And if it's, I want to spend more time with my children, and that's one of your goals, then what's the strategy? Okay? Am I just going to say, if you just say things, they don't materialize. Have you noticed that? You need to really have a plan about getting there. If I want to spend time with my children, I don't have any, so I really know. What do you do? Pick them up from school, take them to McDonald's? I don't know. But I have pets, and I walk my dog, a couple of times a day. So these are important to really think about each and every goal and how you're going to achieve it, and then put it in the calendar, okay? So we'll go back to the math. So what I'm going to do is just talk to you about the money, okay? Let's say you have we'll go all the way back, Anthony. I think I don't need to write anything down. This is a very, this is, if someone wants to earn $300,000, who wants to earn that this year? All right. Who wants to earn more? Okay, good. Okay, good. Have big goals in there. I like it. Have big goals. That's one of the important keys, right? So if you want to earn $300, this is just a sample. There's 3 things you need to do. You need to know, 1, what's your average sales price? Okay, I know in Sonoma County it's $865 or something like that, right? But we're going to use 1.2 for San Francisco, and that's probably higher than that, isn't it here? So, but this is sort of in the middle. It's just an example, okay? But you sit down, and I literally have done this every single year of my career, and when I was selling real estate, and I would do this math, and I'd go through the numbers, and at first I didn't even have the right calculations, right? Because I would I'm going to round it up, okay? If I do this, I'll have that, and But then I sort of realized, when I look at those paychecks, those numbers were not matching. What happened to another $2,000? Okay, well, you got to pay the broker, and you got to pay the taxes, and you got to pay the TC, and you got to pay for your marketing. So you've got to be realistic with your numbers. This is why it takes time. And if you're sitting home and you're worrying about the garden, or the kids are interrupting you, it's not going to happen. That's why I like to go to a nice hotel, get a nice room, bottle of wine, and enjoy yourselves. Hey, take the time for yourself, right? So you have to know three things. You have to know your average sales price. You have to know your commission, your average commission price. Some people are 3%, that's great. Minus your split, whatever that is, and then minus your expenses, that's the next king. And then your file review and TC, don't forget that, right? Because that's all in there, right? So these are basic numbers. So when you thought your commission was at 30,000, it's really not. It's already 22. You haven't even bought any cookies for the open house, right? So let's face it, you haven't done your marketing materials either. So the numbers are a little bit, you have to think careful. So let's go to and that's also taxes. So if you want to do that, it's a simple math equation. Everybody knows division here. So this is not asking for algebra. But you just divide your 22.5 into your 300,000, and that means you have to sell 13 properties this year, okay? And a half. Good luck with that one. So maybe it's a referral fee. I don't know. But referrals are a great source of business, right? You want to make sure that's in your business plan. Where am I going to get these deals? So this is what you need to know is how many for my goal. If your goal is 500,000, it's going to be more, right? Transactions. Or you can do what? Raise your price point or raise your commission. You charge the seller, right? Instead of 2.5, charge 3. Let me tell you, when you charge 3%, that number changes really fast. I know you're the queen of that, Ilana. I know that. So, okay, so let's see the next slide. Where are we? So, you set as many as you like. But once again, I read this, I guess it was about 5 years ago. I was in Cabo. Yeah. I like to go away, I tell you, to do my plan, and I like to do it now. You're already done with Q4, so you've got to be into Q1 now. You've got to be thinking, where's my next paycheck, right? Always ahead. So you're looking at the next 4 quarters, because Q4 is done. Whatever's on the books, it's on the books. But now what you want to do, don't tell Jay. You'll be like, no, they'll stop working. No, you got to work, of course. Anyway, so the point here is, I was reading this article about Warren Buffett. And he says, which I liked, that you should, even if you have 20 goals, 10 goals, 15 goals, you should pick the top 5 and prioritize. Just put the top 5 in there because most of us are not likely to go after more than that. So that's what I started to do. I started to look at my list of goals and I go, well, that's probably a good idea. Pick the top 5 and then work on those because that is achievable, right? There's also something else about writing it down. If you're just thinking about it, and you're rolling around in your head, God knows there's a lot going on in my head. So I like to make sure I put it in paper. There's something special about writing it down that makes it become a reality. There's never been 1 year that I didn't reach my goal or surpass it or just under it because I wrote it down. When your intentions are clear, but up here it gets really muddy, doesn't it? So let's go into see where we are next. Okay, so here's what you have to do. You have to figure out, okay, you take your list. Let's just stick with our 300,000 because this is our business plan, right? We want to earn $300,000. We know we need 13 transactions. How are you going to get there, right? So I've given you a nice cheat sheet here. I've given you a nice cheat sheet. He's taken my business planning many times. Anyway, and you can read them. I can read them off. Okay, referrals, right? Or newsletters, or working expires. Anybody work expires in here? No. Why? Oh, good. What? Good. You get business from it every year? No? Doesn't mean you're stopping. Okay. Well, the thing is, you have to do all these activities to find out, 1, what you're good at, and 2, what you like, right? Because you don't know what you're good at, especially when you're new. And then once you start to get a groove, and then you can look back last year, where did all my business come from? If you watch my interviews, you'll see these top producers that I talk to, they tell you where their business comes from. I ask them a question, and then they'll tell you. And most of them, after 5 to 10 years, they're on referral only. Maybe they throw in I have a great story about a top producer here. Came in my office, the guy does 25 million hands down every single week. I mean, every single year. Every single year, right? I know, that would be nice. Every single year. He comes in my office doing all one-on-ones, and he says, I want to go to 50. I said, okay, well, tell me what you do. I do Brian Buffini by referral loan. What else do you do? Nothing. Nothing? That's it? And he was making $25 million, selling $25 million worth of real estate a year. Great plan, but he wanted to grow. You can't grow if you do nothing else. So I said, well, let's do some things. And we talked about what he could do. And he started doing postcards and mailings. I said, do you do open house? No, I give them away. Well, stop doing that. Stop giving your open houses away. You're going to get 2 or 3 deals a year just right there. That's going to be another $4,000, right? $4 million. So you have to look at these activities. So you write down your activities, and we'll go to the next slide. And then you have to look back and see how many transactions each one of these are going to generate for you, right? So if you know that you're getting 10 from a referral program like Ryan Buffini, then you need to do 3 more. You only need 3 more if you want to get to 13, right? But he's in the, he wants to make $1 million. So everybody, you should know, with an average sales price of about $1 million or $1.2 million, if you sell $50 million a year worth of real estate, you're making $1 million. So that's good income. Ladies, let's buck up. We can do that. There's a lot of people in this office doing that. It doesn't take a lot. But what it does take is some strategy. You've got to think about, okay, maybe I'll get a couple of deals from my YouTube. Maybe I'll get one from here. Maybe I'll get one from, a for sale by owner. I'll walk in and wine and dine them until I get a transaction, and so on, right? And then you come up with this number. So you've got to look at, some of you don't have history to look back, but you can use some of this because it's kind of average. I mean, look, if you do an open house every single, Susie Riley, you should go watch that video, okay? Here she started from 0, and this girl, every single year, she hits 50 million in sales, okay? $9 in her pocket. She wears nice clothes and shoes, trust me. So, but the thing is, and Andrea Swetland, she's another rock star right here, does it all. So how many open houses, but Susie, let me finish with Susie. And she said, all she really does is open houses. She's really good at it. And people like her, and she pulls them in, and she gets them in escrow, and she makes business that way. So you have to figure out where your business is coming from, and even if you don't like it, do it for a year, because nothing pans out in 3 months or 6 months. You've got to be consistent. So when you're consistent, you do these things over and over and over, right? I started my YouTube channel, I don't know, in May. What is that, 6 months ago, 7 months ago? I had no subscribers. And 6 months into it, I've got 32 videos up there, and I hit my first 1,000 subscribers. I have no idea how to do any of that. I'm paying some guy in Indonesia or somewhere to optimize my page. I don't want to do that. I don't want to learn that. I know how to sell real estate. I know how to teach real estate. These are the things I do well. I don't need to optimize my YouTube channel, right? So these are the things that you need to look at, and you have to try new things all the time because the ball is always moving. We can't still do, you ever see does anybody know what a Fizbo is? I know stuff. It's not the clown from Modern Family. Very good. For sale by owner, right. I mean, are they out there? I don't see them. They used to be a lot more. But this is, these are things, ideas that people come up with. And so I write them down and I make the list. So let's see the next slide. So then you have to take your strategies, right? So be sure to be detailed in your strategies, right? So if I'm going to work on referrals, what am I going to do? Maybe I'm going to send a gift to everyone who sends you a referral. It's not illegal to send gifts to people. It's your money. You can do whatever you want with it, right? So I got a great referral the other day from one of my former clients. And I remember one of the agents here telling me he always sent Gary them to dinner at Gary in April. He's still around. But anyway, and he would do that. It was like a $500 dinner. And his clients loved it. And he got so many referrals, But it's simple. You have to acknowledge when people acknowledge you, And, I always used to say, well, anyway, never mind. I'm not going to go there. So newsletters, how many times a year? Now, when you sit down to start this is another thing. When you sit down to start your newsletter or your postcard campaign, or I started a new one this year, okay? And I wanted to, because I've gone back to sales and I'm bored and I wanted to do something. So I came over with a creative idea to do a whole piece around historic Hillsborough, right? So I'm having fun with it. I've taken Dylan, my photographer there, and I went around and took pictures of all these old houses. And then, I'm doing old pictures and new pictures and kind of fun, just something to do, right? But I don't want to make anybody mad, but I don't want to do one at a time. because I can't take the mind time when I'm busy with 2 escrows and a couple of buyers, and then I got to sit down and think about what my postcard's going to be. I mean, I learned that, a long time ago. I do 12 of them in a row. Give them to the marketing company, the marketing department, and get them banged out, and you're done for the year in January. And you don't have to think about that postcard every month, because guess what? You're going to miss a couple of months throughout the year because you're going to be busy and you're not going to have the time. So get detailed on what you want. I want 12 postcards. I'm going to send them out on 15th of every month. You're going to go to this list and it's done. Boom, off the list, right? Work expires. Well, if you're doing that, you got to, it's a process, right? You have to send 1, 2, 3 letters to them. It's not a one and done. Sometimes you knock on the door. Sometimes you send them the letters, but you have to have a campaign around these things. Well, if I make 10 phone calls, but maybe I make 10 phone calls, people say, oh, I always love one day when I said this, but CJ class and Frank came and just walking by. And I was talking about phone calls, right? Because today I noticed this. Let me tell you, I know I'm old, but Jesus, nobody wants to talk on the phone. Text me. But the text messages, they leave a lot to be desired. Would you agree? I mean, there's so much miscommunication. Yes, it's okay if you're saying I'll be there in 10 minutes. That's a text. But if you want to talk about the house or transaction, you want to talk about business, you want to say, hey, I'm sorry, Paige, I knew it. Paige, I just drove by your house. I'm driving out. I just maybe think of you. How's everything going to your former clients? That takes 2 minutes, right? Maybe they'll keep you on the phone for 5 minutes. A lot of talking, 5 minutes, right? So, but you've made a connection and you move on. So Frank's walking by one day and I said, come in here. And I said, how many phone calls do you make a day, Flay? You know what he said? Anybody want to guess? 0? No.
Salary.
Nope. Nope. 70 phone calls a day. You ever drive in the car with Frank Nolan, you'll see. Drive time is work time. Huh? He makes, on average, about 50 to 70 a day. But he told us 70 that day. And that's what, look, if you're in your twilight years, I'm looking at some people. I know I'm kind of like, I don't do that anymore. But when I was working, I would do that. And when, Andrea, how many phone calls do you make a day? You still make phone calls?
Not as much as I should.
It's not as much as you should.
But I know.
Yeah. But you're still, you're on sort of like on coasting because you're in, 25 years in?
31.
31 years in, right. And she still cranks out business like every single week. Tons of business. Oh, stop. I see numbers. I know how to find numbers. Okay. So anyway, and then Zoom parties. Well, that was last year when we had, but now, like Frank had some great ideas this morning. And the favorite one was hire a photographer. I loved that one, right? The sales meeting. Hire a photographer, get him in here, invite 150 people, maybe 20 will show up, maybe 40 will show up, and get them a portrait for their family for the holidays. What a great idea. How much could that cost? Still they'll make a nice deal back there. It's not as much as you think. And it's a great way to stay top of mind with your clients. So you and I think, Santa Claus photos. I know some of the agents here. Some of the agents here do pumpkins, the Halloween and pumpkin patch. Invite all your clients. They went to pumpkin patch for a night. Invite your clients, right? We can do Thanksgiving pies. There's a lot of things you could do. It depends on your budget. So going back to your goals, one of them is you need to look at how much your marketing budget's going to be, right? So it's usually going to be about 15 to 20% of your income, right? So if you're making $100,000, you're going to spend $15,000 to $20,000 on marketing, and you need to do that. I know it's a lot, but you need to do it because you need to reinvest in your career, into your business. This is a business. It's not, a hobby that we're here. We're here to work, right? I remember one time, I'll move on, but what's his name? Mike Ferry, Rudel, right? Rudel. And I was at a convention, and it was a big room full of people. And they said, how many of you are here because you like people? And 80% of the hands went up. He said, you are foolish. I was like, oh, this guy, he's on fire. He said, you're here to make money. That's what you're here for. You're here to make a living. This is not a joke, right? You don't see people that are working hard. This is here to make a living. That's what you're here for. Okay, anyway, enough of that. So do as many activities as you can and then figure out when you're going to do them. So if you're going to join a leads group, when are you going to do it? How many times a month are you going to show up? And if you just think about it, it's not going to happen. You need to write it down. You need to put it in the calendar. And then you will do these activities. So let's see the next one. So the strategies are one, and then here's the calendar. So whatever you like to use, I'll give you the benefit of the day. You can do whatever you like. It's fine with me. Get a plan into the calendar. Hold your commitment to business. If you don't, it's just a good idea. I've already said that a couple of times. And then if this is something else that I see a lot with aging, and I mean, this is a little bit off, this is a plan, but people don't pull their commitments. I don't know what's up with that. It's like, I'm going to meet you for this, and was it a plan? And, suddenly somebody else pops up and they just abandon the plan. No, and we talked about this morning. It's okay to say, I have an appointment at that time, and I can do it at this time. They're not going to leave you just because you have another appointment, right? You really do need to hold your commitments. Because if a buyer calls you, unless they're going to write an offer that moment, or you're going to sign a listing, I would not abandon my business plan. If I was going to a leads group and somebody wanted to see property, I'd say, I can't do it at that time. I have an appointment. And that's where a lot of agents get tricked up. Anyway, it's a little reach. Go ahead. Let's see what we got next. Okay, so marketing budget, I kind of touched on that. The rule of thumb is 10 to 15%. Prospecting strategies will determine your marketing budget, right? So if you're going to do the photographer or pumpkins or whatever, you got to think, how much is this going to cost? Postcards, how much is it going to cost? This is why it takes time to write your plan, right? What is it? I'm going to send to 500 people. I'm going to send to 300. I'm going to do 100. I don't know. But you got to look at the math, right? And then obviously, the higher your income, the higher your budget, farming pieces, and all of that. So I think that's pretty straightforward. So let's go ahead and see the next slide. Okay, so we're going to go on to the big picture. So what do we do different in the new year? What can you do differently, right? So you can do more of everything that you're doing, I'm sure. We all can. We kid ourselves that we're working so hard, but I know I could do a lot more, but I don't want to. So that's a decision. I don't have to. I really don't have to anymore, and that's the good news, because I've worked hard for all my life, and now I want to enjoy it. So I still take listings. Why? Because I love it. I love being out there, and then I have new people hold them open for me. See, Miranda got her first transaction at one of my listings this week, so that was exciting. So that's what you do. You just you have to create. So, I think people don't realize this farming thing. I'm gonna say it's hot. I'll tell you why. Because I am doing something so old-fashioned, because I'm old-fashioned, but I like, people think, oh, that doesn't work. It does work. Real estate is not rocket science, okay? It's really very simple, but you have to do these activities. I am mailing the magazine called American Lifestyle. Some of you know it. You do it too? So I decided I have a database, 150 people from my career that that I really like. The other ones, not so much, right? So those people are they're in my database. So I called up American Lifestyle because I've always liked that magazine. I think it's a very high quality, well done piece, okay? And it's very, very affordable. I think it cost me $250 a month. So I put all my favorite clients on there, and I send that to them. Now, I just started it 4 months ago because I was bored. Again, what am I going to do? I'm sitting home. I'm like gardening. I'm, enough already. I need some activity. So I put 4 or 5 months ago, I've had 6 phone calls from my own clients. Now, not that they're listing, but they're like, hey, Paula, they didn't even say they got the magazine, but I know they did. Well, like, I need this, or can you refer me that? Oh, can you do this, But this works. Being in front of your own clients, they already know you and love you. And if you're not marketing yourself to them, if you forget them, the NAR has always had this stat, and probably some of you know this stat, where they say that 80% of the agents do not keep in touch with their past clients. And 80% of the past clients couldn't tell you their realtor's name. That's why we all go relist these houses, right? Because they're not loyal. It's not that they're not loyal. They don't remember you. 10 years later, they're like, yeah, I really liked her, but I don't know where she is or what. I can't, her name. You got to remember, this is important to keep in touch with these people. So farming really, really, really works. I encourage you to lean into that. Videos, get comfortable with them. I mean, we've all got to do that. I know people are doing that more than ever in the younger generation. But, I was telling a story about another woman this morning. She's like this Southern belle from, South Carolina. She gets on there with her pearls. She's all, hi, y'all, and have a nice day. And, but, and her story, she hit 1 million followers. I was watching it last night because she got comfortable being in front of a video. It's no big deal. We talk to people all the time. Just put the camera on and don't look at it. That's what Okay, next slide. Okay, so the big picture. I think we have those loaded up. Let's go on to that. And I made actually a cold nap for myself. So go ahead and picture the next page. And I'm going to give this to you. You'll all get a set of everything, okay? So there's the one page, and then this is the 20, it's only 19 pages, so not bad. And a lot of it is going to give you, let's go to the next slide, please. So what it's going to do, it's going to help you to start to create your own vision, okay? So you want to create your own vision. And this will walk you through. Go ahead, keep going, Anthony. And then plan. This is the numbers and math that I already talked to you about. You're going to add it here so you can go back and look at your own numbers. And then the next page. Now, if that's your number, don't be afraid. Whatever you write on the paper, if my goal is 300,000, bump it up. Push yourselves, okay? Because you will reach that goal. There's no, just be audacious in your goals. So go back one, please. Bump it up, and then mark the days off in the calendar. Okay, same thing. Go ahead. Okay, so then they have worksheets. Now, for those of you who have been in the business more than a year, you have all this information. All you have to do is probably go to your emails if you don't have a spreadsheet, but you should make a spreadsheet, right? Make it a goal if you don't have a spreadsheet with all of your transactions, right? Or if you don't have a database, make it a goal to start a database. So go back. I've done it. That's what I was like lazy. I wasn't lazy, but I was busy managing, right? And I went back to all my clients and I put them all in an Excel spreadsheet. It took me, I don't know, a day. It wasn't that painful. It was painful, but if I get it done. It is painful. We all know it, but do it because that's golden to you. Because now I'm, look what I'm doing. I'm sending all these people business. They're getting me business. So look at how many escrows you open, how many you close. What's your fallout ratio? Everybody has one, okay? 5% is typical, 10 to 12 to 16%, So everybody's excited when you put them in, but guess what? That's the beginning. You got to do what? Close them. Opening escrow is one thing, but you got to close that escrow to get paid, right? So you want to look at your fallout ratio. If I open 6 and I only close 3, well, you got a 15% ratio. You've got to know your numbers, right? So what percentage of the seller, what percentage is the buyer, right? And so that's important to know because then you need to know, maybe I should start working more on listings, or maybe I should get a few more buyers and do some open houses, or figure out, to do a first-time buyer seminar. I don't know if you would do, but there's lots of things you can do, right? So then the current year, then you want to look at that. So next page, and then next page, sorry. Okay, so what are your observations? This will give you have it all here, next page. And then total income, less your expenses, total net income, and then you want to look at your average. That's how you're going to get your average. So when you look at your own numbers, that's how you'll get your averages. The ones I gave you are not accurate. So then the next page showed you what it takes. It's brutal. I mean, this isn't really, you'll get a real look at it. It's a dual page because, so if you look at here, this is, the reason why you have this is cold listings, cold buyers versus sphere of influence, right? So this number here is the one I'm going to show you. 5 calls a day will get you 5 sales. That gives you 1,100 calls a year. Can you do 5 calls a day? Really? Any? Or if I said, can you do 1,111 calls a year? You'd be like, no, I'm catatonic. That's just too much, right? But if you break it down, we reduce to the ridiculous, right? If you break it down, then you're going to realize it's only 5 calls a day. And you're going to get 5 transactions out of that, calling your past clients, okay? But if you have a cold call, look at these numbers. They're brutal here. I may get out of the way. 25 calls. Oh my goodness. 25 calls a day. You have to make 5,556 calls, cold ones. And then that'll get you 5 transactions. So which would you rather do, right? Call for people you know. So these numbers are helpful. And I tell you, when I was brand new, this is what they told me. Here's your desk, here's your phone, go to work. I said, well, I don't know what to do. So then I paid this guy, Lloyd Wickman, $1,000 to learn what to do. So he told me here, in those days we had phone books. Another thing gone by. Nice big phone book. He threw it on the desk and he said, start wherever you like and start calling, and you can't get out of that chair until you get an appointment. That's how I was trained in real estate. And it still works. 5,556 calls to get 5 transactions, or you start building that database and call the people that know and love, right? So anyway, that's an example. And then there's a blank one. Go ahead to the next one. That's a blank sheet for you to fill out your own, and then go on. And then this is the calendar, which we've talked about. So I call you to mark off your activities. Go ahead, Anthony. Oh, good. And then you need to know this page. Here's something else a lot of new people do, and a lot of you seasoned know already this, but you need to be sure to put 10%, you need to make sure that you pay your taxes. You need to pay your quarterly taxes, right? So I always like to put that in there because some people don't know, and I got trouble when I was brand new. I didn't know. And then, I had a $50,000 bill at the end of the year, and I was like, good luck with that, right? Because I didn't have the money. So you need to make sure you pay yourself. You put your money in savings, and then you need to also pay your quarterly taxes, okay? And then there's tithing and, giving back to the community, which you can do. A lot of people, does anybody tithe here? Yeah, good. What organization? Church. Say again? At church, very nice. And you raise your hand? I can't hear you. Animals, right. Yeah. Oh, you do? Yeah, it's a good thing, because I have this money Maddie, the more you generate, the more you care before that comes back to you.
Why it's called cash flow.
It has flow. It flows. I love that. That's a good one. Cash flow. I like it. Okay, the next page is going to be the, you can pass that one and they can read that. But this is the page where you can look at what percentage your business comes from. And these are some ideas, and there's a lot more ideas in this. If you don't know what to do, and these days, all you need to do is Google. Watch my interview with Ro Habibi, right? $1 Million Listing Agent. So Ro, but he was a great interview because I said, Ro, you were on the TV show. Yeah, easy. You got a lot of people calling you because of that, right? Even in the reruns. But what about a new agent who doesn't have business? Where did they get? He said, there's so much free information on the internet. All you need to do is Google it, right? You can Google it, or you will listen to podcasts. You can watch my videos, because a lot of these agents are telling you what they do. So there's ideas, there's plenty of them, and then we're getting towards the end. The end is kind of my favorite part here. Oh, your ideal clients. Okay, last story and we'll wrap. So I had an agent here, I'm not going to say, but when she came up to me, my aunt was practically in tears. She's like, I have the worst clients. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. She says, no, you don't understand. They're terrible. They're all terrible. Every one of them, they're difficult, they're hard. I can't take it. She was like ready to quit. And I said, you know what? You need to stop. Because I was like, where was I? I was all, let's talk about yours. I'm like, girl, you need to stop. And I did stop her, and I said, you need to turn that narrative around. You need to start saying, I have great clients. Because you're manifesting those bad clients, and the more you manifest that, the more they come. It's like you open the floodgates, right? Goodbye. True story. About a month later, I walked in the office, sales meeting Wednesday morning, and she came running up to me, and she grabbed my arms, and she said, Paula, you won't believe it. I said, what? She said, I have the best clients. And she said they sent me a gift basket at the closing. They took me to dinner. I'm like, she said, I've never had that happen. I said, okay, girl, now you got it. You gotta be careful what you say. We just do it. It's like rope, you know? And nobody's harder on ourselves than us. I know that, especially when, you know? I mean, let's not go down there. Let's not. Okay, so creating your ideal client is important, right? And then let's see where we're going from here. Next one is, I'm going to let you read this page. My favorite page is the last page. So I'll wrap it, but I do need my glasses. Okay, so I always like to read this one out loud. So three commitments. Ooh, 3 commitments you can make today, okay? When you commit to constant improvement, constant learning, and constant stretching, you will progress. Leave today and make these 3 commitments. If you can't, I'm just saying. All right, so 1, read. Readers are leaders, okay? Read, read, read. If you want to beat out 60% of your competition, or it's the best, 60% of your competition, become a super reader, okay? Reading puts you ahead and stimulates you mentally and makes you a better conversationalist, right? Number 2, take courses. To this day, I still am learning, right? There's always something new to learn, like, look, YouTube, right? Who knew? Okay, so you learn from teachers, peers, coaches, and your manager. You can shorten your learning curve by 3 to 5 years by taking courses like, well, this one says the followers, that this was when I was teaching. I'm not teaching. So, but anyway, you can, and that's true. I never, ever stopped. And I know plenty of us in this room that still do that, right? And you have great leaders in this room. You've got Diana and you've got Tracy, you've got great managers. You can learn from these people. Julie, people that have been in the business a long time. Ivy, this is the 3rd one. Model behavior of these successful people. Bam. Always Cap. She's great. So find people who are achieving the results that you would like to achieve. And in those ways, in years past, we would say, take them out to lunch, take them out to coffee if you can't afford. We had that conversation once. Take them out to coffee, I just want to get to know you, because you'd be surprised what that does. I find that agents are afraid to ask top producers questions or even to have coffee with them because they're intimidated maybe, or they think they don't have time for me or something. But those people that you're asking, they're so flattered. I remember the first one, I'll throw her name out because it's an old name. Only probably one person will know, Mary Lace.
I know Mary Lay.
You know Mary Lace?
I hope she doesn't slide.
Right. And I was brand new. And I would read the book and it said, take somebody with coffee. I didn't have money for lunch and took her to coffee. And she was so flattered that I asked her. And then she gave me so many tips, when I was a new agent, You've got great women. Ilana's a great star. Andrea's a great star. I mean, there's such great agents. Rita and Roxana. And there's so many great people here in the Galapagos that you can learn from. Your own peers. And that's the point of this entire work, this entire Women in Vanguard, is that we support one another and that you can get to know the women who do work here and that you can share not only business, but you can share stories, you can share light, and you can share ideas and create, a great environment for all of us. So with that, I'm going to say thank you for listening to my business.